Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Last night, April 23rd, 2020, on CNN's front page, this story emerged. Teen was allegedly killed by his stepfather after he refused to shelter in place. So, in other words, the child didn't want to stay at home because of coronavirus, so his dad shot and killed him, or his stepfather. And when I began to read this story, I saw that it came out of Atlanta, Georgia, just days before the governor reopens the state, and where the mayor of Atlanta is saying that it's too soon to reopen, this is going to cause the virus to spread even further. So it's a state right now that's debating what's the right thing to do. You get this story now of a father shooting a son in the city. But then what really jumps out about it is they say the father who shot the son was 42 years old. And again, we've been talking about all the 42s stamped all over the coronavirus outbreak. When it comes to black people, they're saying the father was a black man who I assume shot his black stepson. But again, just headlines like this earlier this month, 42% of those killed by COVID-19 in U.S. are black. You know, this past Sunday, CNN, which is headquartered in Atlanta, they had a special, The Color of COVID, hosted by Don Lemon and Van Jones. They did that Sunday, April 18th, 20, a date with 42 numerology. Again, 42 is the number stamped all over black history. Tuskegee, HIV, February, slavery, brothers, the N-word, bus, Jackie, and the list goes on, all summed to 42. Again, you had 3 dead black celebrities on Jackie Robinson's birthday the other year. LaTanya Lemon, Oscar Gamble, and Rajuel Butler. LaTanya Lemon being the sister of Don Lemon, who was the main host of this. And again, it's pretty much the same thing every single day. Last night, before this headline emerged, I did the video on the bust of actor Jason Mitchell by the numbers, which had 42 stamped all over it. So, as soon as I finished that video is pretty much when this story showed up on CNN's front page, and I nearly made a video last night. But again, it's just so redundant. If you've never read my book, the 18th chapter is about how propaganda in the media that forms stereotypes about black people is often encoded with the numbers 42 and 59. Remember last night, Jason Mitchell, who's acting in the show The Chi, he got busted 59 days before the 3rd season of that show comes out. This story's out of Atlanta, Georgia, a predominantly black city. Atlanta, Georgia's 59, like Negro, like slave, like Rasta, like blues. Again, like how Motown came out in 59, like how Black History Month ends on the 59th day of the year. But 59, 42, again and again and again. And here, a 42-year-old father shooting his 16-year-old son. They say that the shooting happened Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. That was a date with 66 and 46 numerology. Notice homicides 66, executions 46. So perfect day for such a story. And again, if it's in the news, honestly what you should do is just throw it out. The news is only here to play with your head, program you, instill stereotypes, confuse you. It's never been more obvious in the time of coronavirus, where every day it's the exact opposite of what they said the day before. But one thing stays true, and that is the use of their numbers in ritualistic fashion. And again, in case you didn't hear me mention this, next February, this new quarter will come out in tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen. And notice what they have on the coin when you zoom in. One plane has a 4 on it, the other has a 2 on it. Remember, Tuskegee 42. Not to be confused with the Tuskegee syphilis experiment on black men. I'll remind that the coronavirus, it was simulated by Johns Hopkins University at Event 201, October 18th, 2019. And Johns Hopkins is Johns Hopkins is now providing the numbers for the cases and deaths worldwide from coronavirus. Remember, it's that same university that has the HeLa cell line, which came from a black woman and was taken without her permission or her family's permission. If this virus really is impacting black people at a much greater rate than everyone else is being reported, That is likely by design. Also, don't forget the hip-hop group Goody Mob out of Atlanta, their 1995 song, Cell Therapy. Read the lyrics to that song. 1995, Goody Mob, Cell Therapy. Not sure there's ever been a more relevant song for the moment we're living in. And it's interesting they're out of Atlanta, where the CDC is, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Don't forget, Center for Disease Control and Prevention equals 201 in Gematria. Just like they say in the Tuskegee experiments, 201 men without syphilis were treated. Event 201, the coronavirus outbreak simulation, the TV show Containment, about the CDC unleashing a virus on the city of Atlanta for experimentation purposes. That show concluded July 19th, 2016, the 201st day of the year. I think what's going on right now in Georgia with reopening barbershops, nail salons, bowling alleys, theaters, I think like the mayor said, I think this is targeting black people, and I worry that it really is another sick, twisted experiment like Tuskegee. This is going to be going on for a while, and this Tuskegee Airmen Quarter coming out next February could be all part of the sick ritual. Consider that this February, the new quarter that was unleashed, this is February of 2020, was the fruit bat quarter, when they're saying coronavirus started with a fruit bat. And there's a lot of interesting things about this, including the fact that fruit bat equals 56 like coronavirus. The man who designed it, Richard Masters, 222 like Wuhan and coronavirus. If you missed my videos on 222, Donald Trump, the World Economic Forum, Event 201, and the day the first case of coronavirus is confirmed in the U.S., you definitely need to check that out. And for one other thought, today, Friday, April 24, 2020, one of CNN's top stories, black leaders say reopening Georgia is an attack on people of color. And if this is by CNN, who just did the color of COVID this past Sunday, April 18th. Or was that Saturday? I'm losing track of days here. I guess it was Saturday. Last Saturday they did that, the color of COVID. But I just want to read a little bit of this article and then show you what stands out about it in light of the fact that every single day it's news by the numbers. So the article goes, Distinctive Cuts is a black barbershop in suburban Atlanta where men gather to argue about sports and tell lies about their skill with women. It's the kind of throwback shop where a candy cane colored barber pole sits out front. Posters of President Obama and Tupac adorn the walls, and customers play checkers and dominoes. The coronavirus pandemic has shut down the business and its raucous conversations, but Mitch McGee, its co-owner, still has some things to say. By the way, President Obama has that gematria of 181, the 42nd prime, from his birthday to the start of Black History Month every year is 181 days, the 42nd prime. His Secret Service call name was Renegade, which equals 59 like Negro. Moving on, the coronavirus pandemic has shut down the business and it's... Oh, whoops, already read that. McGee believes Georgia Governor Brian Kemp's decision to reopen some businesses across the state starting today is an attack on African Americans, one of the groups hit hardest by the virus. And he says it's no coincidence that the businesses being reopened, including barbershops, nail salons, and churches, are communal gathering places for black residents. It seems like it's an attack on us. Those places are all in our community where we live on top of one another, he said. I have right to be paranoid because our people are dying more than whites. And again, those are what the headlines are saying, 42%. And another time, McGee's fears might have stayed confined to his shop floor along with his customers' hair, but he is part of a growing chorus of black leaders and business owners who say that reopening Georgia's economy places a dangerous burden on people of color. One prominent black pastor even said state officials were diabolically planning to exploit black people. Okay, so I want to remind of something. creating all this additional fear in the black community. Remember, eventually they're going to come about with their vaccine. And don't forget that vaccine equals 42. And don't forget the ritual years ago with Elvis, who was accused of making black music when he came out, kind of like the modern day Eminem. Elvis went on to die at age 42. But remember, on October 28th, 1956, Elvis got his polio vaccine on live TV as something done by the government and with the intention of inspiring Americans to follow the lead of one of the biggest celebrities at the time, if not the biggest, follow his lead and go out and get their polio vaccine, because the vaccine had come out in 1953 and hardly anyone had sought it out. But after Elvis got it on live TV, everyone went out and got it. And remember, when Elvis got it October 28th, 1956, it was exactly 42 weeks after his birthday. It was on Jonas Salk's 42nd birthday. Jonas Salk is who's credited with the polio vaccine. And it was on Bill Gates' first birthday. Mr. Vaccine, who now operates out of the 42nd state, Washington, where the first case of coronavirus was confirmed and where they're doing the trial vaccine in the U.S. 42. Vaccine 42. You know, Tuskegee 42. Think about how Bill Gates got kicked out of India for giving contaminated polio vaccines to people purposefully. His foundation is totally booted from India. He does a lot of vaccine experimentation in Africa. Who knows what's really going on over there? So these are all things to think about. No doubt, because some people are so afraid, they're going to be more willing to get that vaccine. Especially since Bill Gates is saying it needs to be mandatory, and they might go that route. But coming back to this story about distinctive cuts on April 24, 2020, today has 68 date numerology. Distinctive cuts equals 68. When you run it in reverse, it's also 94, like coronavirus pandemic, like Seattle, Washington, 68 and 94. And guess what year the coronavirus was coined? 1968. And if you've seen my work about how from 9/11, 2001 to March 11, 2020 was exactly 222 months later, and the significance of that, this is the second 9/11. Remember, in 1968, that's the year the plan went into motion for 9/11. 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. World Trade Center construction began. 2001, A Space Odyssey came out. George W. Bush graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones. His birthday is July 6th. From July 6th to September 11th is a span of 68 days. Boeing debuted their jumbo jetliner. That was the New York Jets' only Super Bowl winning season, and so on, all in 68. Also the year MLK and Bobby Kennedy were assassinated. There were major race riots in 1968. Of course, CIA 68. Wuhan is 68, like Seattle, Washington, where the first case was confirmed. Don't forget the construction firm that built the World Trade Centers in New York, Magnuson Klemenkic Associates, is from Seattle, like Boeing. But again, rituals, numbers, news by the numbers. The barbershop owner, his name was Mitch McGee. His name equals 48, like Atlanta. Today's date numerology is 48 and 68, so his barbershop's perfect, his name's perfect. Just got to say, what are the odds? More news by the numbers. Selling people ideas, thoughts, fear, confusion, paranoia. But sadly, we do live in a world where black people have been targeted with viruses, disease, illness, government policies, crack cocaine, and more. So, again, just beware. And don't forget that in the Event 201 coronavirus outbreak simulation, what happens in the simulation is governments reopen too soon. And then because of that, the virus spreads more rapidly. And as they say in the simulation, poor people begin to die rapidly in large numbers. In the coronavirus outbreak simulation Event 201 of October 18th, 2019, which was the same day the military World Games began in Wuhan, China, in that simulation it lasts 18 months and kills 65 million people. And no doubt they came up with that number 65 because simulation equals 65, so does pandemic. And they run it on Melinda Gates' 65th day of her age. Again, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation were some of the main sponsors of the event. And Bill Gates' full name, William Henry Gates, equals 201, like event 201. All right, Truth Seeker, we'll leave it there for now. Again, you can get all these posts, this information at gematriaeffect.news. You can pick up my book there. Just click the ebook tab. If you want to learn this knowledge, its relevance, where it comes from, why it's used every single day, it's all here. Until next time, Truth Seeker.